Hello everyone, it's Edwin Agrone here. I'm here to tell you the ins and outs of buying your very first rental property. The intent of this video and all my videos will be to give you as much authentic, real-life insight into personal finance, real estate, and business management. With that being said, let's rewind the tape to about 14 years ago. 14 years ago, I was house hunting, didn't know if I wanted to be in a standard single-family house or a multi-unit, duplex, 3-unit, 4-unit. It was in my mindset, but I didn't know which way I was gonna go. A friend of mine had a duplex and he was having some good luck with it. So I thought, well, this could be my go on how I make some extra money on the side. So I contacted a local realtor that my friend had referred me to, and she took me through a bunch of houses and duplexes, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna stick with the duplex search. We'll just kind of go from there. I found one that was in the town that I wanted to be in. It was completely vacant, both sides, so I could live in one half and rent the other half out. So it really was a perfect situation for me. So we found the duplex, wrote the offer, got it accepted. 30 to 45 days later, closed on it. So I got the keys, went there. One side was vacant, like I said, the other side was open. So I moved right into the one side. The other friend of mine that we were living together, he ended up moving in with me, and he rented a room from me. So it was just me and him on one side, and that started my search for the new tenant on the other side. That was going to be my plan for the next 10 years or so, while I accumulated money, saving that money that I earned from one side over the course of 10 years to buy additional properties. So let's talk about financing real quick before we get too far ahead. The financing I used was an FHA loan. It's 3.5% down. It's a lot of first-time home buyers do use that loan, and that's what I did. It's very minimal money down. So I had just gotten my tax return, so that helped, along with a little bit of savings that I had to get in there. So it was really a great loan for me at the time. Not sure that I would buy an investment property going forward with an FHA, but the fact that I live there helped significantly. With an FHA loan, you can buy up to 4 units under one roof. So if a duplex is too small for you, you've got to live in one of them of the 4, but you can qualify up to 4 units under one roof with FHA financing. So it's definitely something to look into if you're looking to live there. Anytime you're buying a multi-unit of any kind, you have to make sure that you've got cash on hand as soon as you close. As soon as you close, you have no idea what you're stepping into in any house, especially when there's multiple tenants there. So there's other people's livelihood, their home life is in your hands. So when something goes wrong, when something breaks, it's on you to fix. It doesn't matter if you own the property one day or 10 years. It's on you every single time. So you have to have a little bit of liquid cash in order to stay afloat. A little bit of a funny story is my very first night in the duplex, I move all my stuff in, I go to sleep, I walk through the utility room, and I step in a puddle of water. So very first night in, hot water heater started leaking, my very first day there. So luckily enough, it was my unit. It didn't affect me too badly for that day. But once you get a tenant in there and it's a tenant problem, they're gonna want that thing fixed that night. It's gonna be a mad rush. They're gonna make you feel very, very rushed to get it fixed right away. So you always need to have some liquidity and money to get things done. If you don't, you're gonna be in a real tough spot eventually one day. I always recommend to have 4 to 6 months worth of mortgage expenses set aside just in case you get in a rough spot with a tenant, as well as some additional money for repairs. So if you have a furnace that goes out, you have a hot water heater that goes out, roof starts leaking, all these things can happen unexpectedly, and you need to have money for that. If not, you're gonna lose tenants, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, and it's just not gonna be a good experience for you. There is going to come a time where a tenant does not pay and they move out in the middle of the night and your money is gone. They are gone, your money is gone, you can't track them down, forget taking them to small claims court, forget all that, it's done. You may walk into the house, it could be completely trashed, carpets stained, broken windows, you have no idea what you're walking into. So you have to have that cash reserve available. If you do not have a cash reserve available, you should not be buying a multi-unit at all. Even just a regular house can be a lot to take on. Just think about managing 2, 3, 4 places. You have to have cash reserves to do that successfully. This duplex that I bought did not have another tenant living in the other side. It was vacant. So my first order of business was to find a tenant. You can do this pretty easily nowadays. Stick a sign in the yard. You can post on Facebook Marketplace. You can find tenants basically everywhere. The problem will never be finding a tenant. The problem is always going to be finding a good tenant, one that pays on time and doesn't trash the place while you own it. That is the difficult part. Eliminating bad tenants from the go is your number one priority. So somebody who you think may not pay, most of these people can be filtered out through the application process. Always have a tenant, a potential tenant, fill out an application to rent from you. On that application, you're going to be able to run a background check. You're going to be able to look at their finances, make sure that they can afford the place that they say they can afford, which is your apartment. I always recommend taking those applications and bringing them to a company that can run background checks. You can look at their finances, you can ask for paycheck stubs, things of that nature to apply. Those companies do cost money. They can range anywhere from $75 up to hundreds of dollars to have a full financial report pulled on a person. Now, on that application, they're giving you consent. They're signing their name on the dotted line at the bottom to have that done. So those companies can provide you with those forms so that you're doing everything legally. Filling out this rental app is 100% a must on my list. You will have tenants coming in with no form of income, no job history at all. As long as you treat every tenant fairly, every applicant fairly, and to the exact same guidelines, you won't get in trouble. The minute that you start moving your guidelines around certain tenants, then that is when there's some fair housing trouble that you could get into. So always keep your guidelines the same. Filter out the bad tenants using those guidelines. A bad tenant can ruin this entire experience for you, and trust me, I've had it. There was a time when I didn't use a application and I paid for it dearly. These guidelines that I'm talking about are going to be set by you, of course, mirrored with fair housing. You're always going to want to rent to the most suitable candidate. But with that being said, you don't want to rent to somebody where their income is 60% of the rent. Their bring home and their rent, it's 60% of their bring home. You don't want anything to do with that. You will end up getting them evicted. You will end up in court because they will owe you money. It's impossible for them to keep up. I always use a rule of thumb, 25 to 30%, 30% being the max income that the rent is. So if the rent is more than 30%, then they don't qualify for the house. A few other guidelines that I had outside of rent, what the rent cost was to their income, was no pets. I do not allow pets. I did not allow pets in my rentals, and the reason why is because they will eventually have an accident. The problem isn't the pet, the problem is the owner. Most owners are great. Every once in a while you're going to find someone who does not clean up after their pets, and eventually that's going to cost you money. If you do decide to have pets, you can always charge extra for rent. You know, you can put another $75 a month on the rent. You can charge another $350 in security deposit. I guarantee you 70 or 80% of the time, you're going to have to do some work inside, possibly replacing doors, trim, carpet, flooring. Animals are left at home all the time by themselves, and things happen. Again, it's not necessarily the animal's fault as much as it is the tenant. So be prepared. If you do allow pets, those things will happen to you, guaranteed. After you find your tenant, you're going to need a lease. Don't ever rent to someone without a lease. If you don't have a lease, don't do it. You want your lease to hold up in court. So having an attorney, having somebody look over that lease to make sure prior to them signing that it's legal and valid is completely worth the few $100s that might cost. So never rent to somebody without a lease. Well, I hope this video was helpful. I will be putting out more content on rentals, business, personal finance in the future. Please like and subscribe. I will be putting out more generalized things as well as detailed things and why I sold all of my rentals. I had a duplex, a 3-unit, and a second duplex. So I had a total of 7 units under 3 roofs. So there's a reason why I sold it all. Real estate can be fantastic, and it was fantastic to me. I'm still involved with real estate because I have my real estate license, and I will be buying rentals in the future, but I moved on to buying businesses, and I love it. I love owning a business. I love being an entrepreneur. And so I have tons and tons of content that I'm going to be putting out on that as well. So please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks.